Third POV. February 19, 1 week before the exams. All Might arrived to the beach, the lights of the dawning sky beaming over the horizon. As he walked by, he could hear the sounds of a few Britannian wheezings, Galarian wheezing, cleansing the polluted air around the beachfront area. It was an idea that Izuku suggested to All Might, as a way to both deal with some of the remnant trash left over and better cleanse the beach from the leftover pollution that the trash left behind, and also give the wheezings by the dump some more sources of food and drive away some of the rebellious rubbish that would appear. All Might smiled as he remembered how shocked and impressed he was at Izuku's suggestion. He agreed with the idea and had his Pokemon talk with the regional variant wheezings into the idea, which, from what All Might gathered, they accepted and have been helping with the leftover cleanup of the trash that Izuku had moved and deal with the more hazardous and lasting polluted air. All Might smiled at the intelligence that his successor showed and how he devised a way that both benefited himself, the Pokemon, and the community altogether. Toshinori may have been inspired by young Midoriya and decided that he would inherit One for All by his heroic actions, bravery, and heart. But he also considered intelligence and resourcefulness as useful qualities that his potential successor should have. And young Midoriya passed with flying colors in that area too. He could only wish that night I could see it as well. During the months that he trained Midoriya, All Might got back in contact with his former sidekick, Sir Night-Eye, about his decision. Suffice to say that the seer hero was very vocal about his decision. Flashback. You are passing your One for All onto a quirkless middle school student. Night-Eye yelled through the phone. It's the right choice to make. All Might said as he coughed out blood. The boy wants to save people, to give people hope and peace. He's the perfect choice. He can't do that with intentions alone. Night-Eye continued to yell. There are any number of people more qualified than a weak quirkless boy. Like Mirio Togata. All Might asked back, his tone more livid at the insult to Midoriya. There were of course other applicants to become All Might's successor before Izuku Midoriya. One of these was suggested to him by the UA High School principal, Mizu by Sir Night-Eye, All Might's former sidekick. The lad was known as Mirio Togata, a current second year at UA who went by the hero name Lemillion and doing his work study under Night-Eye. The boy was suggested to him for his outstanding talent, skill, and because his views and attitude aligned to his standards of a successor. In pen and paper, he looked to be a younger clone of All Might. In fact, All Might was originally in Muzutafu to meet with young Togata to see for himself if he would be a suitable successor. But then the sludge villain occurred. He met Izuku Midoriya and the rest was history. Would it be so bad for you to listen to me? Night-Eye said. If what you told me is true, the boy is reckless, impulsive, and naive. Mirio already has training. He's already better known and making a name for himself in the hero community. His quirk combined with your own would be an unstoppable force. He is close with his Pokemon, who are also exceptional, and his views and personality make him more than an adequate successor. Yet you would trade him off for some quirkless middle schooler out of pity. Enough! All Might yelled out, coughing up some more blood but didn't care as he had enough. Listen to me, Mirai, and listen well. You think that I would give away One for All, the quirk I was entrusted to by my master Shimura, out of pity? If you think so, then you truly don't know a thing about me. I chose the boy not because of sympathy towards his predicament, but because he showed me his heart, his spirit, his drive to help others, that he would risk his own life, for a boy that I suspect to have been nothing but a bully to him. Contrary to what some heroes would say, such as Endeavor, Aizawa, and even Gran Torino, he wasn't a complete moron. He saw how the boy reacted to Izuku when he saved him and overheard him yelling at Izuku before he revealed himself and offered his quirk. Yet even then, Izuku tried to save him with no hesitation. He probably would have securely brought him to the heroes, if the Bakugo boy didn't blow up at Izuku. He showed adept improvisation and resourcefulness with the sludge villain. His hero notebooks show a level of analysis and intellect that rivals both you and Nizu. His tenacity and drive have exceeded my expectations time and time again. His bond with his Pokemon are incredibly strong and he shows immense amount of compassion and charity towards people and Pokemon alike. He showed the makings of a true hero. And did you forget that I was quirkless too? Did you forget that I went from a quirkless middle schooler to the symbol of peace? Night I was silent on the phone. Whether he was shocked or silently fuming, Toshinori didn't care. I will leave you with this last reminder, Night Eye. You are not responsible over my quirk. You don't have any say over who I give my quirk to. Gran Torino had no say when my master gave it to me, and you have no say in it either. I agree that young Togata is qualified enough. I agree that there are others that are worthy, maybe even more. But young Midoriya is the one that I chose. He is who I choose to pass one for all to, just as my master Shimura did so for me, and her master did for her. So you can either accept it and move on, or shut it and not let your personal bias towards young Togata cloud your judgment. Young Togata is your successor, not mine. All Might hung up the phone after that, not caring what choice the Foresight user took or the greater rift that formed between them. Flashback over. All Might sighed at the memory of his talk with his former sidekick. For all his talk about looking up to him, he believed he knew who to give one for all better than the one who held it instead. All Might may have regretted some of his more harsher words towards his friend and former sidekick, but the man would need to accept his decision or not take part in it at all. He can only see the future, not write it. All Might was shaken from his thoughts by a loud cry. He looked up to see a sight that shook Toshinori to his core. Up on a pile of trash and rubble, as the dawning sun rose to shine upon, Izuku Midoriya stood atop, yelling his soul out. Rure! The symbol of peace was stunned and thought what he saw was something straight out of a tale of the ancient Pokemon legends. The boy yelled with more ferocity than he ever saw from endeavors in Boar. As he turned his gaze to the light of the sun rising over the waters, he became even more stunned. Holy crap, kid! Toshinori said in amazement. You did it. You even cleaned the area outside I told you to. Seriously, there's not one speck of trash left on this beach. And you finished it a week early. You exceeded my expectations. All Might stared stunned at the entirely spotless beach in front of him, amazed at the beauty that his successor restored. Beside him were Eevee and Pikachu, dirt smudges on their fur and panting tired from their share of the work. Though they helped Izuku with his cleanup of the beach, they mostly worked on strengthening their own bodies and moves with the trash that Midoriya moved away. Their actual contributions to cleaning up Dagoba Beach were microscopic compared to Midoriya's, but what they provided for Izuku to finish quicker than expected was their loyalty, encouragement, and belief. Holy, dinking, super crap! All Might shouted as he buffed. Izuku fell down from his trashy perch and started falling to the clean shores of the beach. He cleaned before All Might rushed in and caught him. All Might looked to the boy with a proud smile. Excellent work. Izuku smiled tiredly at his mentor. I finished it. All of it. All Might. Do you think I'm ready now? Yeah, kid, you are more than ready. All Might said with pride as he slowly settled Midoriya on the ground. I knew you had it in you, but this is truly beyond. Way to go beyond, young Midoriya. All Might watched as Izuku panted, tired from his final work, before pulling out his phone and showing it to Izuku. Look at this. Izuku looked at the phone to see a picture of himself, skinny and crying. Let's you crying 10 months ago. All Might shut off the phone and looked at his successor now. But look at you now, how far you've come. Such improvement. Izuku now stood before All Might with a figure of an Adonis. His once skinny arms had become muscled and strong. His thin chest now muscled and held a well-defined six-pack. Midoriya even grew a tiny bit, about a slight inch and a half, and though his legs were covered, All Might could make out his legs more defined and stronger. Midoriya's form wasn't overly muscular like All Might's or Endeavor's, but it was refined, each muscle grown and defined perfectly to its purpose. His muscular form was leaner, like a swimmer or runner. There's still a long road ahead for you to inherit my full power, but you are well on your way, young Midoriya. All Might finished. Izuku was stunned for a second before smiling shakily. He looked down at his hand and said, All Might, do I really deserve this? All Might was taken aback for a moment before Midoriya continued. You've spent so much time and energy helping me, pushing me to do my best. How did I get so lucky? How did I become so lucky to be your chosen successor? Tears fell from Midoriya's eyes. Not tears of sadness, but rather tears of pure joy and elation. All Might was again taken back at Midoriya's question. Is he really worried about that? After all these months? All Might was at first worried that it was signs of Midoriya's depression and self-degrading thoughts. But All Might quickly realized it wasn't something to worry. It was just Midoriya showing his humble nature. Now's not the time for worry. Now's the time for celebration. I was right in picking you, young Midoriya. All those who say otherwise can go to hell. All Might placed a hand on Midoriya's shoulder and said, I for one don't believe in luck. I believe that all this was due to your determination, perseverance, drive, and passion. Now, Izuku Midoriya, for your reward. Yes, sir. Izuku said as he stood tall and proud. Someone told me this once. All Might said as he plucked a strand of his hair, willing his consent. There is a difference between being lucky and deserving. One an accident, the other a reward. Never get the two confused. Izuku looked to All Might in awe and reverence. All Might looked back to the boy with pride and joy. Take that to heart, my boy. This gift. You earned it. Midoriya looked at his idol in awe before steeling himself with a look of determination. He stood ready for All Might to pass on his quirk, to grab the future. All Might held out the hair in front of him. Eat this. Over at the Midoriya residence, Inko was waking up and preparing some breakfast for herself, knowing that Izuku would be already up and at Dagoba Beach. She smiled at how her son was so determined to become a hero, to live up to All Might and Toshi's training. All of a sudden though, as she took a sip of her coffee, she spat out and started laughing. She didn't know why, but for some cosmic reason, she felt her motherly intuition flare and know that somehow in some way, her son was making an adorable shell-shocked face. Miles away, in Yamanashi Prefecture, an elderly man in a yellow and white costume was drinking his morning cup of coffee before he spat it out and laughed hysterically. Through a force of cosmic reasoning or pure comedic purpose, the old man couldn't help but laugh and think that the buffoon, Toshinori, just did something hilariously stupid. I don't know how, but that fool of an idiot Toshinori has just done something completely stupid yet hilarious. The old man thought. If only I could have been there to capture it on film. And own a camera. Izuku Midoriya was expecting many ways on how he would be granted one for all. He expected a simple handshake laced with All Might's power surging into him. He thought of All Might creating an orb of energy and blasting it into his chest. He even theorized that it would involve some cult-like ritual that involved body paint and chanting. What he didn't expect was being handed a piece of All Might's hair and told to eat it. Was all Izuku could say. To inherit my quirk you must ingest some of my DNA. All Might said. This is the least disgusting or frankly disturbing option. Now can you please just eat it? You can't just expect me to just eat a piece of your hair just like that. Izuku yelled out. Come on. The exams are in week, and we need to start training with one for all as soon as possible. Wait, hold on. Eat. A few seconds of forcefully shoving a strand of All Might's hair later, Izuku gulped and nearly gagged the thing up in disgust. He looked to Pikachu and Eevee standing off to the side, looking at the whole thing, with mixed looks of disgust, amusement, laughter and horror. That was disgusting. Trust me, it was the better than having to eat a toenail or ingest my blood. All Might said, shivering in disgust. Is that how you got it? Izuku asked. I don't want to talk about it. Izuku nodded before examining himself, trying to find any sort of difference in his body, inside or out, but he didn't feel anything. So what happens now? I don't feel anything extraordinary happening. We will have to wait until the hair is ingested into your system. May take an hour or two. For now, poof, All Might debuffed back into his original form, coughing up some blood. Let's just take a walk to let it digest easier. No offense, All Might, but can we just lay down and rest? Izuku asked meekly. I'm still a little tired from earlier. Ah, you're right, sorry. Here. Toshinori snagged a water bottle from his coat and gave it to Izuku, who started downing it. They sat by the sands of the beach for what felt like an hour, gazing at the morning sun and sea, before Izuku said, Hey, All Might. Yes, young Midoriya, All Might said. You said how one for all would allow me to communicate and even strengthen my Pokemon over time. How is that possible? Do they have to ingest my own DNA, or does it involve aura? Izuku asked. To be honest, I have no idea, Toshinori said. How one for all fully works has been a mystery to its past bearers, including me. I usually chalk it down to the bonds between you and your Pokemon, connected by aura, growing more rigid and or stable. The bonds between humans and Pokemon and the powers and experiences that arise from it are still a mystery to many in this world of ours. Like Mega Evolution, Z-moves, or Dynamaxing? Izuku asked. Correct, Toshinori said. What makes the bonds between humans and Pokemon all the more special is the power that can be unlocked through them. Mega Evolution is the most obvious, given how you and your Pokemon need a strong bond to attempt it. Otherwise, the Pokemon could go berserk and wild. Like the incident in San Francisco with the crazed Mega Garchomp, Izuku said. Man, I sometimes forget what a fanboy you are, Toshinori said. But yeah, the whole incident was when a Pokemon battle went sideways after a civilian tried to use Mega Evolution with another person's Garchomp. It took both me and Mega Lucario to reel that Pokemon in. I remember from the videos from back then how you and Lucario would just look eye to eye and then you two would just know what the other was doing, Izuku said. Is that how it works? Communicating with your Pokemon through one for all? Boy, nothing gets by you, kid, All Might said. But as for the question, yes and no. Huh, Izuku said. Let me explain. Remember how I told you about the tales of the Aura Guardians? I told you how the Aura Guardians use the power of aura for their powers and for communicating easily with Pokemon, even through the mind like telepathy. I told you how even though aura isn't a quirk ability, that one for all allows us to easily access our own aura and perform feats similar to the Aura Guardians. Being able to communicate telepathically with your Pokemon is one of those abilities. That's amazing, Izuku said in astonishment. So basically, one for all has like 3 quirks wrapped into one. Stockpiling physical power and aura of its past users to use, the ability to transfer your quirk to another person through DNA, and telepathy with your Pokemon. Actually, it goes even further. As I said, one for all not only strengthens your bonds with your Pokemon through aura, allowing for telepathic connection, but your Pokemon will also grow stronger through aura as well over time, just like you, Toshinori said. Wait, what do you mean over time? Izuku asked. I won't be as strong as you, All Might. Currently, no. Took years of training to get where I was in my prime, so I would assume it would be the same for you. But you can probably use one for all with as much power as one of my weaker punches currently. What I passed on to you, young Midoriya, is but a tiny flame. But like you, it will grow into an inferno, one that will outshine and outgrow me, while my flame dies out. Dies out? Izuku asked, frightened. I don't actually mean die out as in I will die without one for all, young Midoriya, All Might said. I just mean that, the more times and the more I use one for all, the more I won't be able to use it, until the flames of one for all die out in me, and all that will remain is the growing fire in you. Oh, I see, Izuku said, looking down onto the sands and waves. Even though he reassured him, Izuku still couldn't feel easy with the thought of All Might fully without his powers. It felt like a Pikachu unable to use lightning-type attacks. Izuku knew that in accepting to be All Might's successor that All Might's time as the symbol of peace would be more limited than before. He felt guilty at the thought of himself being the reason why the symbol of peace would soon be gone. But Izuku knew that wasn't true and was selfish to think, pinning all the blame on himself. This was something that was going to happen with or without him. He just hoped the day that All Might retires would be long into the future. V and Pikachu came up to them as they continued watching the waves in silence. Izuku rubbed both of their heads, and couldn't help but feel the slight shiver that went through his body as he touched their heads. He didn't notice Pikachu and Eevee shiver as well when he did. He looked to his two partners and thought to them, "This is where our journey begins, guys. The road to be the new symbol of peace. To become the greatest hero in the world and save people with a smile on our faces. Let's do our best, guys. Yeah. / you got it, boss." Izuku paused as he heard two voices that sounded nothing like anyone he knew. One sounded high-pitched but boyish, and while the other sounded lower but still high. "All Might, did you hear that?" Izuku asked the blonde-haired skeleton. "Hear what?" Toshinori said. "You didn't hear those two voices," Izuku said. "They didn't sound like anyone I knew." "No, I just heard Eevee and Pikachu say their names suddenly and..." All Might said before pausing and looking at Midoriya with wide eyes, who stared back wide-eyed too. They both looked down to the two confused Pokemon beside Izuku with wide-eyed suspicion. Eevee, Pikachu, were those voices you too?" Izuku asked. "What voices?" Eevee's and Pikachu's mouths moved, and the voices from before sounded out. "Those voices," Izuku said, eyes filled with amazement. Pikachu and Eevee did a double-take, and they too widened their eyes amazed. "Boss, you can understand me," Pikachu said, the lower voice sounding out of him. "Yeah," Izuku said. Pikachu's eyes widened, a happy smile forming on him. He spoke then, his voice the high-pitched one. "Izuku, can you hear understand me too?" Izuku smiled tearfully and said, "Loud and clear, Eevee." Eevee and Pikachu jumped onto Izuku, hugging him in joy. Izuku hugged them back, tears in his eyes that he can understand his two best friends in the world. "Hey, Izuku," he said. "Yeah," Izuku said. "I believe you can be a hero too," he said. Izuku stared agape at the evolution Pokemon, tears building up more in his eyes. Pikachu jumped in and said, "Same here, boss. I believe you can be a hero too. Always had, always will." Izuku wrapped the two in a hug and wailed out tears of joy. All Might saw the whole interaction and wiped a tear from his own eye at the sight. Even though he couldn't understand what the Pokemon said, he could easily tell that it was something heartfelt. He fondly remembered how he reacted to hearing Cinderace, Scorbunny at the time, voice for the first time. He realized that if Izuku could understand them then... "Congratulations, young Midoriya," All Might said as he stood up and held out a hand to Izuku. "Ninth wielder of One for All." Izuku stared at him in awe before gaining a determined, serious look and accepting All Might's hand. As Izuku picked himself off the ground, he asked, "So, I have a quirk now?" The green-haired teen stared at his hands, tears once again rising. "After so long of being told I was quirkless, that I couldn't be a hero, I now have a quirk." He stared back at All Might, eyes filled with resolve. "I promise to use this quirk wisely. I promise to be worthy of this power you entrusted to me. I promise to become a great hero, just like you. One that saves people and Pokemon with a smile on my face." "Very well, kid," All Might said, smirking. "In that case, how about you give it a whirl?" "All right now," Izuku asked, startled. "Sure," All Might said. "We trained and waited this long. Plus, remember what I said. We have to start training your use of One for All as quickly as possible for the entrance exams next week." "Oh, okay." Izuku looked around and asked, "So, where should I test it? I don't want to damage the beach that I just fixed." All Might thought for a moment before looking at the water. He pointed towards the sea and said, "How about there? Just punch with One for All at full strength towards the sea." Izuku nodded. If All Might's strength, or what Izuku possessed at least, was passed down to him, then a punch towards the sand or wall would end up with disastrous consequences. A punch to the sea, or at least the air in front of him towards the sea, then no serious damage would be done on the beach. Izuku stood before the shoreline, the waves brushing against his shoes. "So how does this work?" Izuku asked. "How can I activate One for All?" All Might took a step back along with Pikachu and Eevee and said, Alright, first you got to focus and concentrate on the power coursing inside of you. Just because you molded your body into a proper vessel doesn't mean that you will be able to handle the full backlash of One for All, especially since you finished in a hurry. Without it, you could still tear your arms apart from your body. All Might buffed out once again. So concentrate. Izuku nodded and turned to the water before him. He dug his heels into the ground. Clench your butt cheeks. Izuku brought his fists up. He brought his right arm back, fist clenched tightly. He clenched his butt cheeks, concentrating. And yell this from the depths of your heart. Izuku's arms glowed with red veins of energy. Smash! Izuku struck his fist out onto the air, and not a millisecond later, a powerful gust of wind blasted out into the sea. Pikachu and Eevee hid themselves behind All Might and held onto him as the blast nearly sent the two flying. All Might even had to step back a bit from the wind and force. The powerful wind stopped and he looked up from his shielding arms. What he saw astounded him. In front of him, a large gap of land stood out between two parted halves of the sea, blasted back from the power of Izuku's punch. In the air, he could see several Magikarps and tentacles being unfortunately blasted into the air, wiggling in mid-air surprise. The water splashed back down, making a loud and hard crash as the gap of uncovered land was quickly covered back up in the water. All Might was astounded at the level of power in Midoriya's punch. While he was able to use all 100% of One for All strength when he first got the quirk, it took a few years of growing and training for him to reach the godly levels of strength from his prime, and his first few punches from when he first started were weaker. But the strength that Midoriya showed from his first punch put his own first punch to shame. Even though he only just got One for All, this level of power is way stronger than when I first received it. All Might thought. Just as I thought. One for All is growing in power and has grown since my time. Though he will need lots of training and experience, young Midoriya will grow up to become more stronger than me. He'll outshine me and truly become the world's new symbol of peace. Man, some deep stuff, All Might. Deep stuff. He was knocked out of his thoughts by Midoriya's loud scream of pain. Gag. Several minutes after Midoriya first used One for All and frantic driving later, Midoriya now resting in a hospital bed at none other than the nurse's room at UA High School. Izuku could barely register the idea at being inside UA, so he thought about how he got here. After Izuku drew the punch, powered by One for All, he screamed in pain and clutched at his broken arm. His arm was swollen red, hanging limp by his side, the bones in his right arm all broken. Izuku gritted his teeth at the pain and held onto it, afraid that it would fall off. He barely registered Eevee's and Pikachu's cries or All Might rushing to pick him up to his truck and drove. He remembered All Might frantically shouting out sorries and pleas of forgiveness for letting him injure himself without proper training first. Izuku didn't blame his idol. He wanted to test out his new power as much as All Might had, and he was too caught up in the excitement of being able to talk with Eevee and Pikachu and having a quirk in the first place. He also remembered Eevee using Heal Pulse on him to ease the pain of his broken arm and growing tired himself. Pikachu sat by and rubbed his other arm, muttering, now understandable to Izuku, about being useless at the moment. Izuku quickly shut Pikachu's mutterings by telling him that it was all right and that his very presence and comfort is more than enough. When the truck stopped, he could barely register All Might picking him and the two Pokemon up and rushing towards the building in front of him. Izuku barely was able to catch a glimpse of the sign in front of the gate. UA. They arrived at UA High School. Izuku became a mumbling mess as he arrived at his dream school. All Might quickly rushed him into the nurse's office, where he was astounded once again at the nurse who helped heal him. The youthful heroine, recovery girl. Izuku now laid at the hospital bed in the nurse's office, watching as said heroine was currently berating and smacking a debuffed All Might in the head with her cane/giant syringe thing. Contrary to her name, the youthful heroine wasn't all that youthful anymore. Not that Izuku would say that out loud in front of her. The elderly woman was small, reaching about 3 feet 9 inches tall. Her gray hair was tied up in a netted bun with a syringe hairpiece keeping it in check. She had a small nose, a long mouth, and the sides of her head was covered by a pink headpiece helmet with a purple-tinted visor covering her eyes. She wore a doctor's lab coat and a dress with yellow and red-like designs with some buttons on, a belt with a pink R-shaped buckle, pink boats, and held a large cane/syringe hybrid. The one that she was currently smacking into All Might's skull. "You large, thick-head numbskull," Recovery Girl yelled out, her voice like a berating angry grandma. "The first thing that you make your new successor do with his quirk is to take it for a whirl? You are lucky that the boy's arm didn't fly off his body. We were pressed for time," Toshinori said as he attempted to block the strikes from her cane. "Plus, we needed to see how strong he was and how much of one for all he could use. Yet you told him to fire a punch at 100%. Recovery Girl shrieked. "Your arm was bruised the first time you used it. What did you expect would happen to the boy after the quirk grew stronger inside your idiotic body?" All Might she knows about one for all," Izuku asked cautiously, worried that he would become recipient to her ire likewise. "Yes, dearie, I know about one for all," Recovery Girl said, her tone shifting to that a caring grandma speaking to a child. "This knucklehead and I were close back in the day and saw fit to trust me with its secret. I was even there when he needed surgery for that horrible wound of his that left the Nimrod in this sad state." She emphasized her point by poking Toshinori's side with her syringe. "It's okay, young Midoriya, you can trust her with this secret," the symbol of peace said as he rubbed his side. "Recovery Girl may be a bit snappish, especially with me, but she is a loyal friend and the best healer and doctor that I know. So dearie, how are you feeling?" Recovery Girl asked as she inspected Izuku's now bandaged arm. "Feeling any tingles or aches?" "No, I'm okay, a little tired maybe, but Evie helped deal with some of the pain with Heal Pulse," Izuku responded truthfully. "Yes, that tiredness is an unfortunate side effect of my quirk," Recovery Girl stated. "I can heal you but at the cost of some of your stamina. I was a little worried that I couldn't have been able to heal you after what Toshi told me about him catching your tired falling self from that trash heap." Recovery Girl's quirk, Heal. Recovery Girl can heal a person by planting a large, somewhat comical, kiss on the injured person. It amplifies and speeds up the human body's natural healing process till an almost instantaneous recovery. The price of her quirk, however, uses a person's own energy and stamina for it to work. And apparently if the user is too weak or drained, she could very well accidentally kill the person. "Still thanks," Izuku said. "I really wouldn't want to go back home to tell my mom that broke my arm." Izuku, Pikachu, and All Might shivered at the thought of confronting a worried/angry Inko Midoriya. "You're welcome, dearie," Recovery Girl said. A dinging sound was heard. "Oh, it seems that your EV is fully recovered." Recovery Girl moved towards a built-in Pokemon recovery station where a red and white Pokeball laid in one of the 6 circle slots. Recovery Girl tossed the Pokeball up, to which it opened and blasted out a whitish-blue light that materialized into a fully rested EV. Eevee jumped into Izuku's lap and rubbed against him, Izuku smiling and rubbing the Pokemon's head. When they got to Recovery Girl, she thought it better to heal up Eevee from his tiredness after he healed Izuku, especially with possibly his worst injury in his life. Bakugo may have bullied and used his quirk on Izuku for over a decade, but the most he did towards his body was numerous amounts of burns, cuts, and some dislocated shoulders. "I have always wanted to meet this special of EV of yours, Izuku Midoriya," Recovery Girl said. "In all my years as a medical hero, I have never encountered an EV or any of EV's extensive evolutionary line able to use Heal Pulse, much less one that could also heal humans. EV has always been special," Izuku said. "After I fell and dislocated my shoulder, Eevee suddenly learned Heal Pulse, which helped with the pain but not actual recovery. It has gotten better over the years, but I tried to keep Eevee from using it repeatedly due to his stamina depletion." During his explanation, Izuku had chosen to omit the true cause of his injury, said cause being a loud, explosive asshole, in making sure to give a pointed look towards Eevee and Pikachu to not say anything. He failed to notice All Might and Recovery Girl momentarily frown at Midoriya's lie. Recovery Girl then said, Very responsible of you to prioritize your Pokemon's health, dear. I can only hope to see how well effective at healing others your EV can be with training. I could end up out of a job. Izuku was sent into a muttering ramble of refuting Recovery Girl's claim, stating how she is an undeniable asset to UA and the hero community. Recovery Girl calmed the boy down and, after wrapping his arm in bandages and warning him to take it easy for a while, said that he was free to go. Izuku and the two Pokemon left the office and waited outside as All Might talked with Recovery Girl. I can go easy on you this time, All Might, for it was the boy's first try. But just as much as that boy has to learn how to use One for All, you must also learn how to teach. Recovery Girl said. I know, Chio. All Might said. Young Midoriya's first try showed to me how much power and potential he has. Perhaps I can ask Nizu to spare some time in the UA gyms and training fields. Maybe he could also give some pointers of how to better teach young Midoriya. There is always him as well, Recovery Girl said. All Might shivered in fear at who he knew she meant. Still terrified of him after all this time. Even after becoming the symbol of peace. You are still afraid of the old man. 3 years of getting the crap beat out of me by him does wonders. All Might said, shivering in terror. Afterwards, All Might gave Izuku the day off, telling him to take it easy with his right arm. All Might would have preferred training him as soon as possible, as much as possible. But one powerful arm-breaking punch was probably enough for one day. As All Might laid in his desk in his apartment near UA, he was considering his options of what to do in regards to teaching Midoriya. He admitted that he wasn't as great of a teacher as he should have been, and after witnessing Izuku's injury over one punch, it hit a sensitive spot in his heart. 10 months of training left All Might attached to the boy, like a son he never had. It reminded him much of his own training and growth with his own master, Nana Shimura, the 7th user of One for All. He remembered much about their spars or when Nana let Toshinori fight on his own, letting him test himself and fly out of the coop. He now realized that during those times, while Nana wore a confident smile, there was always a tiny bit of fear in her eyes, worried that he would get hurt badly. All Might sighed, feeling now how the burden on being of a teacher and a mentor to a student so stressful and challenging. Toshinori smiled and gained a greater respect towards his mentors. Speaking of which, All Might was fiddling with his phone, thinking back and forth about calling him. His other mentor, the one who trained him, even after his master Shimura's death. Jolt! Pokemon cried out beside him. All Might turned to see quite possibly his second most bonded Pokemon. While All Might made a point to treat, care, and value all of his Pokemon equally, some held more significant places in his heart for certain reasons. Cinderace was obviously his partner from childhood and most trusted companion. Jolteon came at a close second. He was gifted to him by Nana Shimura, freshly hatched from its egg from Shimura's own evolution, Espeon. Jolteon was similar to how Izuku saw Pikachu. His first captured Pokemon, lightning-type based, and, thanks to One for All, is more powerful than its other kind. Jolteon rubbed against his partner and owner. It's spiky for not bother Toshinori at all. All Might rubbed the creature's head and asked, You think I should call him? Jolt, Jolt. Jolton said, looking at him with a nod. All Might sighed in reluctance and said, You're right. As much as it scares me and wounds my pride, he is a better teacher and can help me with teaching young Midoriya. All Might turned on his phone and dialed the number. After a few seconds of the line ringing, the call came through. Who is this? An old man's voice spoke through the other end. Hi Gran Torino, it's been too long. All Might said, his voice already trembling. If it isn't the world's dunderhead of a symbol of peace. Has been a while, Toshinori. I had a feeling you would call. Did Chio tell you about what happened, sir? Is that why you knew I would call? All Might asked, worried he'd get a mouthful from his old mentor. No, I just felt through the universe that you recently did something either incredibly stupid, hilarious, or both. What's this about Chio telling me about something? Why would you think that old bat would tell me something? All Might was tempted to smack his own face at his stupidity. His fears drove him to asking that stupid question, and now he will have to explain it to his old mentor himself. After Toshinori explained to Gran Torino about the events of this morning, Gran Torino spoke up, "You idiotic buffoon. The first thing you did was teach the kid to go all out with your quirk on the first try. If I wasn't so old, I would jet my way over there and give you the spanking of a lifetime. Hell, I would make a mulga fly over there to zap you if the old flying spark rat wasn't so lazy. Zatsuapga. Watch it, you mutated flying Pikachu knockoff, or I'll be tempted to sweat you into a lake." All Might barely held back a chuckle at hearing his old mentor getting shocked by his partner Pokemon. "I am sorry for disappointing you, Master Torino. But it was just a test run of how much power young Midoriya could use and how much he could handle. Fine. Thought I still sorely tempted to fly over there and smash my foot in your face. How did the kid do?" "He did better than when I first used it. One full-powered punch from young Midoriya was enough to blast away a good portion of the beach, but at the cost of breaking his arm," All Might explained. "And how much do you think he can handle?" "I'm not sure, but I feel that at this point it would probably around 4 to 5%. Not much, but it's better than nothing. And compared to your power, Toshinori, that can still make this new successor of yours a force to be reckoned with. If you were competent enough as a teacher, that is. That's why I called you, sir. I wish to train young Midoriya to the best of his potential with the best training I can provide. I would send him to you if the exams weren't so close by. Which is why I'm calling to ask for your wisdom. Please help me know what to do to help teach young Midoriya." Gran Torino was silent on the phone for a few seconds before he spoke. If Nana was still here, I would owe her 100 yen. Huh, Toshinori said, confused. "Nana and I made a bet that you would have become a better teacher when you got your own successor. Seems she was right," Gran Torino said, fondness in his voice at the memory of his friend. "But anyways, I will help you teach the kid, Toshinori." Thank you, sir," All Might said. "I'm most grateful for your assistance and wisdom." "You are damn right," Gran Torino said. "I'll be by UA the day after tomorrow." All Might froze. See, can you please repeat that? "What? You didn't think I was just gonna give you a few pointers over the phone, did ya?" Gran Torino said. "I'm coming to Muzutafu to help train the kid. See you soon, Toshinori." The old hero hung up, but not without chuckling darkly at hearing the mighty symbol of peace stutter and shake in terror. Said symbol of peace was currently panicking and crawling under his bed, much to Jolteon's amusement. 2 days later, true to the old hero's word, Gran Torino arrived at UA High School 2 days later, with Toshinori and Izuku riding towards the hero school. The two's reactions were varied. Izuku, upon hearing that All Might's own former teacher and mentor was arriving to help him, was going fanboy ecstatic. To have the man who trained the symbol of peace now train him was a dream come true in Izuku's eyes. Plus, Izuku was overly anxious to train more after 2 days of no training with One for All, at least the quirk kind. After Izuku got healed up from his first use of One for All Might sent him home to relax and take it easy for his arm to recover. Izuku at first protested, wanting to keep going, but after All Might insisted, Izuku was forced to obey. The rest of that day involved Izuku getting pestered by his mother, eating, some more relaxed training, and long talks with Eevee and Pikachu. The following day, All Might had Izuku do some physical workouts to prepare his body more for both his body to take in One for All and to be the best shape possible for Gran Torino's arrival. Izuku worked himself over to the bone, wanting to excel as always, while also testing out new moves and strategies with Pikachu and Eevee. As much heroes and quirks have become the norm, Pokemon battles were still a major part of society, especially for the quirkless. But nowadays, just like quirks, people respected and looked to those with strong and powerful Pokemon most, while looking down on those with weak and less recognized Pokemon, something that the kids at Aldera thought when they saw Izuku with Eevee. Izuku and his Pokemon worked hard, and now, a day later, he was almost jumping in his seat in anticipation at both training under All Might's teacher and at UA. All Might, however, was in the opposite mood. He practically was slumped in the driver's seat with an air of dread around him. The more closer they were to UA, the more All Might sweated in fear at seeing Gran Torino again after so long. All Might was slightly glad that the old hero would have most of his attention towards Izuku, but then All Might grew even more fearful at what Gran Torino would put the boy through. They eventually reached UA, where they were met with both Recovery Girl and a certain UA principal. "Hello there. Am I a Ratata? Am I a Togedemaru or a talking Meowth? Doesn't matter. For the only thing you should know is that I'm the principal," Nizu said. Nizu was a curious creature. He appeared to look like a Pokemon, but not one that anyone had ever seen, and his attributes and look also made him appear more human than a Pokemon. He appeared a short man, around 2 feet 9 inches and a half feet tall. His white fur had a lustrous sheen, and he wore a white dress shirt underneath a black, double-breasted waistcoat, a pair of orange sneakers and black dress pants and a red tie. His head appeared like a Togedemaru, but more pointed, with square-shaped ears, circular black eyes, and had a long scar over his right one. He had a white tail, similar to a Meowth, and pink-padded paws. "Hello there, Nizu, sir," All Might greeted him. "Might I say that your fur is rather lustrous today? Kiss up." Recovery Girl thought, but didn't voice it. Even though she could be snarky, she very well liked and wished to keep her job. "The secret is keratin," Nizu said happily. "Oh, this must be your successor that I've heard so much about." Nizu directed his attention toward he fanboying Izuku, who snapped out of his mumbling at the successor part. "I am Nizu, principal of UA High School. A pleasure to meet the 9th user of One for All at last." "It's a pleasure to meet you too, sir," Izuku said as he shook the principal's hand. He then did a double take and asked, "Wait, you know about One for All?" "Why, of course," Nizu said. "I am a rather intelligent creature who is hard to keep secrets from. But I am sworn to secrecy, so do not fret about me knowing you and All Might's secret." "Nizu, sir, if it's all the same, can we hurry this up?" All Might said. "I rather we speak with Gran Torino before he becomes irritated with me." "Well, of course we can," Nizu said. Mr. Torino had a feeling that not showing up front would make you more nervous. Seemed he was right. Anyways, let's get going. Gran Torino should be expecting us in Gym Gamma. We should also suit you up, Mr. Midoriya, with one of our gym uniforms. They made their way towards Gym Gamma. Izuku in the meanwhile gawking at every place of UA they passed by and muttering up a storm. All Might and Recovery Girl sighed and tried to snap him out of it, whilst Nizu chuckled and listened to Midoriya's ramblings, taking note perhaps take on Izuku for more advanced class. When they finally arrived at Gym Gamma, Izuku now clad in a blue and white UA gym uniform, they found Gran Torino inside, lying down in a pool of red. "Aya! He's dead!" Izuku screamed out in horror. The old man raised his head. "I'm alive! Aya! He's alive!" Izuku screamed out in horror and joy. Beside him, Eevee was likely freaked out and sighing in relief, while Pikachu was barely holding in his laughter. Recovery Girl and Nizu were chuckling, while All Might was shivering more nervously. The previously thought to be deceased old man stood up and spoke in a senile-like voice. "Oh, excuse me, I seem to have slipped in a pile of sausages that I had brought with me. How clumsy of me." Gran Torino wiped his chest that upon closer look appeared to be ketchup and sausage sauce. Gran Torino appeared an old short man, around Recovery Girl's height, with white gray hair and beard and elderly wrinkles all over his face. He wore a plain yellow and white hero costume, a black domino mask on his face, a long yellow cape strapped to his back, a yellow belt with a gray G in the middle, had large padded shoes, that for a quick look Izuku saw had holes on the bottom, and had a wooden cane on him. Is this for real?" Izuku thought in disbelief. "Is this really All Might's teacher? He looks almost senile." "Don't fall for it, young Midoriya," All Might thought nervously. "Don't fall for his trick." "Who might you be?" Gran Torino asked, pointing at Izuku with his cane. I'm Izuku Midoriya," Izuku said. "Who?" Gran Torino asked, his hand over his ear. "Izuku Midoriya," Izuku said louder. "Ha!" the old man asked again. This guy is senile. Izuku thought again. No. He's falling for it. All Might thought more nervously. Izuku turned to All Might and asked, Is this really Gran Torino? He looks more like the human equivalent of a Drampouf. Izuku suddenly received a swift kick to the back of the head by the supposedly senile old man. Izuku looked back to see the old man now jumping all over them in the gym, speeding and jumping around the walls, floor, and ceiling as fast as a bullet that Izuku could barely keep track. It finally ended with Gran Torino landing above them, hanging by the wall above them, looking at Izuku with a challenging look and a devious smile. Want to compare me with a Drampa again? Or are you ready for me to train ya, you newbie? Few days followed after that. Izuku training under both Gran Torino and All Might, with Izuku quickly discovering why the mighty symbol of peace feared the short man. While old and short, the old man was incredibly fast and strong. Gran Torino's training was for Izuku to mainly power up One for All with a lower percentage and try to hit him. Izuku at first failed miserably, barely able to muster up One for All quick enough or string enough to strike at the fast-moving target. It was also made especially hard when Gym Gamma was changed, thanks to the cement hero, Cementos, to have large columns of cement for Gran Torino to jump around. Izuku could barely keep track of the speeding and jumping target, and he could barely think up a plan before he received kick to the back or head. Izuku picked up on what kind of quirk Gran Torino had that allowed for his fast movement. Jet was the name of Gran Torino's quirk, and it allowed him to convert his own breath into highly pressurized air that shoot out of his feet, propelling him at high speeds. During these days, All Might told Izuku that in his current state, Izuku could only use about 4% of One for All, maybe 5. At first Izuku felt downtrodden at such a measly percentage, before All Might assured him that with as much power as he saw from Izuku with just one punch, that it was more powerful than any punch he threw in his first time, and encouraged the green-haired teen to keep practicing and trying to use One for All at a lower power than full-out 100%. Izuku did as he was instructed and focused One for All at only 4%. At first, he felt like it was shaking and almost about to explode before settling and gaining control. It didn't break when Izuku punched a rock to smithereens, though it did tingle. He then tried raising it to 5% and he found it harder to control, and it left his hand numb after a while, but it didn't break either. Over and over, Izuku tried to call One for All and at a lower percentage at the old hero, but every attempt ended with Midoriya on his butt. Izuku asked why this was considered training after a rather humiliating session of being made a bitch by an old man, to which said old man told him, "Toshinori called me after you used One for All and broke your arm. That kind of use of the quirk is disgraceful. You will be a liability if you can only use One for All at 100% and break your limbs afterwards. This training is to help you find a way to control One for All in a less destructive form and more effective method than just calling upon it." Gran Torino explained. "What that may be I can't nor will tell you. You have to find a way to use One for All in your own way rather than refer to your shackled admiration to All Might." Afterwards, Izuku mulled over those words and found them enlightening. Izuku indeed could see that he wasn't going to suddenly be able to use 100% of All Might's punches with just training, and his arms weren't going to handle constant breakage without serious consequences later down the line. Plus, despite his best attempts, his tries to use One for All were too slow and required too much concentration, and even a few rare attempts of him using it by instinct were sluggish and lacked control. Izuku recalled to when he asked All Might over how to control One for All's power. Flashback. Izuku's training with All Might was more physical workouts, along with some basic martial arts training. With instruction by both Mizu and Gran Torino, All Might, and later Izuku, agreed that while Izuku may one day have the overwhelming speed and strength of All Might, learning a few martial arts would be a welcome addition. Izuku preferred judo techniques, most especially using an opponent's greater strength and momentum and using it against them, and quick karate-style punches and strikes for his more agile and smaller physique. This training was easy for All Might to do. His larger stature and durability in buff mode made for the perfect punching bag. After a quick session involving some judo-style flips and parries, Izuku asked All Might how he controlled One for All, how it felt for him to call on its overwhelming power. "You just have to feel it," All Might replied. A blank stare from Izuku later, and All Might gave him a more legitimate answer. It's actually quite simple, Midoriya. Do you remember your first punch with One for All? Broken bones and a lot of pain. Izuku questioned. No, I mean the rush of energy, feeling it course through you. What did it feel like for you? All Might asked. Izuku pondered for a minute, remembering the power course through him. The heat and pressure that exploded outwards till it burst forth and broke his arm apart. It was like an egg about to explode in a microwave. All Might laughed at that statement, claiming it sounded rather lame but encouraged Midoriya to keep to that image. Alright, then lower the wattage and energy or decrease the cooking time. And secondly, don't think about it calling out towards it. One for All, hell quirks in general are not like magic or some special summon in a video game. It is a part of you, flowing inside you ready to come out, but you are the one that's in command. One for All is now a part of you, not the other way around. Izuku gaped in awe at All Might's wisdom before nodding, his face determined and ready to go. Flashback over. For the next few days, that's how Izuku's days went. Izuku failing to hit Gran Torino, a break, physical training with All Might, another break, and so on and so on. Now, Izuku was currently doing another training session with Gran Torino, the jet hero pinning Izuku's head against the ground. Nope, too slow. You were too busy muttering up some plan that you failed to catch me fainting. Don't let your mind wander. Stay focused on what's around you and adapt, Gran Torino said. Sorry, I'm just a little puzzled on something All Might said. Izuku said. I try to lower the wattage like he said, and I've got more control over it and managed to focus it on one body part with lesser power. But I'm still too slow to react and power my fists up with One for All. That's good to hear, Gran Torino said. You're learning and getting used to the quirk. Now is all a matter of reaction and control. You say that you can gather it in one specific body part. Yeah, Izuku said. Why are you only using it in one fist? Gran Torino said. Izuku was about to answer before he froze, his eyes full of confusion. You know why, Gran Torino said. You are trying to imitate All Might. You are trying to punch like he does, trying to use his level of strength and power, aren't you? Izuku simple nodded. That is what I mean when I say that your admiration for All Might is a shackle, Gran Torino said. You and All Might are two different people in terms of physical nature. He is big, strong, and muscled. You are skinny, lean, and short. One style of fighting can't be fully copied by another of a different style. Izuku nodded. So why use One for All on only hand at a time? Gran Torino asked. Before Izuku could answer, Pikachu and Eevee sounded off, walking over to them slowly with a plate of treats with them, and moving slowly and flinchingly. Treats are ready, Eevee called out, Izuku understanding him. Eat up, boss. You need some more fuel if you want to catch this old fart, Pikachu said. He took another step and winced. Oh, sweet Arceus. My paws are killing me. Damn that old copycat of me. Oh yeah, another thing that happened. Gran Torino pretty much sent Pikachu and Eevee to their own boot camp as well, run by his own partner Pokemon, Emolga. The air/lightning type Pokemon worked Pikachu and Eevee in both speed and accuracy. Emolga would fly around at high speeds while Pikachu and Eevee would try and either tag him or fire at him with either Swift or Electro Ball, if their bruises and tiredness was anything to go by. Emolga was just as much as a brutal teacher as his partner. Ah, finally, Gran Torino said. I've been starving for some tasty hot pastries. Gran Torino swiped one of the pastries and chomped down on it. He cringed in pain as it was as hard as a rock. Ow! You two idiots. No wonder Pokemon shouldn't be allowed to cook. Do you two furry knuckleheads not know that if you stick multiple pastries in one microwave that there is no room for it to grow? Izuku paused at the old man's words. His mind flashed in realization as the lessons started to piece together. You have to find a way to use One for All in your own way rather than refer to your shackled admiration to All Might. Lower the wattage and energy or the cooking time. Don't think about calling out towards it. One for All is part of you, not the other way around. So why use one for all one hand at a time? I got it! Izuku screamed out, startling the two Pokemon and old hero. Got what? Gran Torino asked. The pastry, Izuku said as he grabbed a pastry and held to Gran Torino. The pastry is me. Boss, I think you might want to eat that pastry. I think you are so hungry that you are yelling nonsense, Pikachu said bluntly. No, not like that, Izuku said. I think I get what I'm supposed to do. Back then I used one for all in a single shot with too much power, so I lowered the power of my punches to 4 to 5% like you and All Might told me. All this time I've just been calling out one for all like flipping on a switch or turning on the microwave. I've only been using it in one area at the times I've needed, but doing it makes me slower and slower. I've been turning it off and on, but I shouldn't. Izuku bent his knees down and took a stance. I should let the switch stay on and not focus the energy in just one hand and break it, but let it heat up and grow and spread all over my body, all at once. The red veins of one for all charged up all over Izuku's body and focused on the image of the egg not exploding but heating up. I need to use one for all by not summoning it in one place, but all over me continuously, with just the 5% that I can use for now. In his mind, he could imagine a star of energy jumping from one star to the next, glowing with another color, till it finally landed in his metaphorical hands and glowed emerald green. Izuku glowed and sparked green lightning all around him. One for all full cowling. As Izuku demonstrated his new technique, Gran Torino smirked. Didn't take too long for him to figure that out. Regular kids take years to figure out their quirks. And he figured it out in only a few days. You really did pick a great one, Toshinori, said Symbol of Peace watched from afar with Nizu and Recovery Girl, the three walking in after hearing Midoriya's outburst. Nizu and Recovery Girl smiled in satisfaction. All Might watched his successor power up in awe and smiled in proud admiration. You did it, kid. Much faster than I expected. I can only imagine how long it would have to take you if I was only a bit dumber. Eevee and Pikachu watched Izuku in awe and shivered. The two could feel the energy coursing through Izuku, their shared link through one for all helping sense what he was sensing. Eevee smiled at seeing his lifelong friend and partner grow closer to his dream. Pikachu smiled likewise for the same reasons, additionally smiling at seeing Izuku spark in green lightning, much like himself. That whole egg in a microwave thing sounds pretty boring, but it looks to suit you well, newbie, Gran Torino said. It might sound dumb and boring, but it works for me and that's all that matters, Izuku said, his teeth gritting slightly at the rush of energy. With every breath and second, Izuku felt his limbs relax, felt the energy fully take in. As it settled, Izuku smiled at the feeling of power inside him. To him it made him feel more stronger, more energetic, more alive. Think you can move in this state, Gran Torino said. Izuku breathed out and imagined the power resting at 4 to 5%. He tried raising it higher but felt his body strain and groan, immediately setting it back down. I think so. Want to give it a go? Izuku smirked and opened his eyes, the lightning sparking up. Yes, let's go.